everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. We are in our 5th week of summer reading program, and so far we've covered some really great topics. We've done family-friendly favorites, we did scary stories of animal attacking, we did lull-worthy comedies, and then just last week we did awesome adventure tales. So this 5th week, what are we going to cover? Well, of course, we are going to stay centered on our summer reading program theme, which is tales and tales. And this week we're doing something a little near and dear to my heart, and that is fabulous felines. Now, I know there are a lot of dog lovers out there, so please don't think that I'm ignoring those stories. We will hopefully be able to get to those soon. But this week, I just was really feeling the whole feline thing. And I tried to stick to stories that were a little off the beaten path. Of course, you have some incredible, iconic movies and books about cats. You've got Aristocats from Disney, which if you haven't seen it, if you haven't shared it with your friends, your family, 100% need to do that. It's absolutely wonderful. You've got really famous books like Homer's Odyssey, tales like that, television shows, Tom and Jerry, of course. There are definitely cats that are super well known, and I tried to pick titles that are a little bit more off the beaten path than those. I have a couple that are really well known as well, but I think they are titles that you don't necessarily immediately think of the cat as being kind of a central figure, though absolutely they are. So anyway, try to do a pretty broad range of types of recommended materials, and hopefully you will find something that you really love in these, regardless of if you are a cat lover or not. So without any further ado, I'm going to jump into those. These titles are all going to be available via your Milan-Berlin library card. Some are available digitally through our streaming services. Others are, of course, just going to be available in physical form, and you can always put those on hold, and hopefully they will make it to us in short order. So with that, I'm going to jump right into the Rex. Okay, my first recommendation for this week is my only documentary film, and this one is titled Keddy. Now, Keddy is a little unusual in that, though it is absolutely a documentary, it views more like your standard film. It takes place in Istanbul, where the common practice is for cats to kind of roam freely, and they become essentially community property. They are communally taken care of. People will feed them, people will treat them as their own. These are cats that are known to everyone, and they are expected to be seen. And it's just really fascinating to see that sort of cultural difference. But what's really phenomenal about this movie is that it sort of gives us a glimpse into several different cat lives. Each chapter of the documentary covers a different cat. They're all known by very specific names, and each cat gets its own day in the life of segment. It talks about what he does in the course of his day, who he interacts with, and the people that are interviewed are really just very straightforward about their interactions. These cats are just like any other citizens of the area, and I just found it absolutely fascinating and totally engrossing. I loved like doing the whole, what I do in a day cat version, and it was just a lot of fun. It definitely is one of those documentaries that will work for a lot of different people. Certainly for cat lovers, I mean, it's a day in the life of a cat, but also for people who really love the YouTube videos of what I do in a day, what I eat in a day, this felt like the predecessor of all of those videos. I mean, except a cat version. And I just thought it was really so interesting to watch. It was just a lot of fun and very unexpected. So if you're looking for something a little off the beaten path, if you love stories about very big characters, because these cats have like big personalities, it's crazy. They're so different, and the filmmakers managed to pick such distinct charactered cats too. If you love like character driven stories, if you like interviews with people who are just, everyday citizens, this one's absolutely something that you could look into. So again, it's called Kedi, Kedi, and it's a marvelous, marvelous documentary. Strongly, strongly recommended. Okay, my next recommendation is for one of my all-time favorite romantic comedies, and that is Bringing Up Baby. Now, Bringing Up Baby is sort of the quintessential screwball romance, and it's just incredible. You've got your two leads who are played by Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant, and those two they are so perfect. They have such incredible chemistry. They were in a ton of movies together. There's Bringing Up Baby, of course, Sylvia Scarlett, Holiday. They just are magic on screen. And I know that Hepburn gets so much more notice for the films that she did with Spencer Tracy, which are also really wonderful. But there's just something about Hepburn and Grant that has always appealed to me. I really just love the way they bounce off of one another. And Bringing Up Baby, I think, is not only like genre defining. As I said, this is the quintessential screwball romantic comedy. But it's also, for me, one of the best movies of their career as far as this kind of movie goes. And they were in a ton of romantic comedies. I mean, these two, they were in a lot of romantic comedies at the time. And this one is definitely, for me, the absolute best. It is silly. It is quirky as all get out. It is ludicrously over the top in places. It has wicked, outrageous characters. It has absolutely outlandish situations going on. And somehow all of those things, all of those larger than life moments sort of blend together into a really fantastic film romp. And you love every moment that you're watching. Cary Grant plays this somewhat uptight, very stoic, very staid paleontologist. He is very proper, very precise, very middle of the road, ordinary guy. Whereas Katharine Hepburn's character is so ludicrously flappy. I have a friend who describes people like Katharine Hepburn's character in this as flappy, always like up and always overly excited and always just going a mile a minute. And that's exactly what her character is. She's this socialite. She is the polar opposite of staid. She loves new things, and she definitely is not like Cary Grant's character in any way, shape, or form. And I think that is what is really movie magic about this particular couple. They are so the definition of opposites attracting. Except Cary Grant's character really wants nothing to do with this absolutely insane socialite. And that's kind of the majority of the film. Grant's paleontologist ends up kind of meeting Hepburn's socialite, and she falls in love with him immediately. She immediately is like set on him being hers, and he's got his whole life. He has absolutely no outward interest in her, and it's about this reverse kind of romantic chase, and it's just so gloriously fun. You might be asking, where does the cat come in? The cat is not a teeny tiny kitten. It is, in fact, a giant leopard nicknamed Baby, so Bringing Up Baby. And it's, again, one of those outlandish, over-the-top moments that is absolutely pivotal to the film and the storyline. It's chaotic. I think that's one of the best ways to describe this film. Delightfully chaotic. I feel like we are at a point where we want so much realism that we've forgotten sort of the fun of something like this. And it really is so much fun to watch these two interact, to play off of this very snappy script. Um, it's just, it's a great way to spend an evening. It's light, it's fluffy. In no way, shape, or form is it going to drag you down or make you think about heavier topics or themes. It's just meant to be a good time. And seriously, if you let yourself, you 100% will be able to with Bringing Up Baby. So if you are in the mood for something light, fluffy, fun, outrageous, funny, if you love movies with great chemistry between the leads, if you like a lot of humor going on in the dialogue of a script, check out Bringing Up Baby. It is one of my favorites, and I strongly recommend this one. Okay, my next film is for a 1963 movie called The Three Lives of Thomasina. Now, this is a movie that I watched when I was a very, very young child, but has actually stayed with me until now. I'd not watched it since childhood. I only rewatched it recently, specifically for this set of recommendations, because I remember feeling fondly for this movie. And watching it as an adult, I'm very surprised by how incredibly dark parts of this are. Um, I usually don't think of movies specifically targeted towards families as having themes that are is as dark as this one does, but it really, really works. It's very sensitively treated, uh, but it is still pretty heavy in places. Um, so The Three Lives of Thomasina tells the story of this cat named Thomasina. Her owner is a young girl named Mary, and Mary's father happens to be the local vet. They are on their own. Her mother passed when she was very, very young. And so this girl really just has her veterinarian dad, and then this cat, Thomasina, that she absolutely adores. And Thomasina loves her too. Um, it's really quite lovely for this first life of Thomasina, but unfortunately, um, Thomasina gets injured, and the veterinarian cannot do anything to save her, and so opts to have her euthanized. Now, Mary is still very, very young at this point and doesn't really understand these decisions that her father has made, and so this causes a pretty intense rift between the two, a rift that is pretty central to the storyline. Now, because Thomasina is a cat, she has many, many lives, and she ends up living again in her second life. Um, she is somehow magically transitioned back into her body, but with no memories of her first life at all. She still happens to be in the same village, but her new owner is sort of the local amateur vet. She's a woman who has no actual training, but just a great deal of love for animals and a great deal of intuitive skill for how to take care of them. She does most everything holistically. She's essentially the polar opposite of Mary's veterinarian father. And this second life of Thomasina's is wonderful. She's very happy because she has no memory of the first life. And the majority of the film is, it asks us as the audience, how will these things be resolved? And since we do know the title of the movie is Three Lives of Thomasina, you can essentially kind of guess for yourself where that third life is heading. But there are a lot of elements, again, that are pretty heavy and pretty intense for a family-centric film. You cover reincarnation. The cat is born, we would assume, 3 times from the title. It also just talks about the whole concept of the multiple life myth. You have parental death, which I guess you have in almost every Disney or Pixar film ever made. You have there I don't want to spoil too much, but you have like quite intense illness treated within this movie. You have just in general some pretty heavy relationship themes going on. but it's never preachy. It's never dark in like an overly intense way. It still manages to treat everything sensitively enough to appeal to people of all ages, because like I said, as a child I loved this movie. I did not feel like put upon or anything like that. I just liked the movie. But as an adult watching it, like, it does make me think. It does have me watching it pretty intensely in places, simply because some of the themes are very relevant to day-to-day adulthood. So yeah, if you're looking for a really interesting treatment of the whole multiple life concept, check out Three Lives of Thomasina. It is a family film that's more than your standard family film. Um, and it's just a great little storyline that goes on as well. So strongly recommended, The Three Lives of Thomasina. Okay, my last film recommendation for this week is for one of my all-time favorite Halloween movies. Um, it is absolutely fantastic. It is far more part of the mainstream than any of these other titles, though I think purely by age it's starting to go to the fringes, because guess what? This movie is now almost 30 years old, and that is Hocus Pocus. Now, I'm still not over the realization that this movie is almost 30 years old, because I remember being very young when this came out. um, but yeah, it came out in 1993, so we are just a couple years off. And Hocus Pocus remains, for me, one of those movies I watch pretty much every year and always enjoy just as much with each successive viewing. It is just such an incredibly fun, fabulous movie. Probably for me, my favorite Halloween film that doesn't happen to be a horror movie. Um, you've got three absolutely ridiculous, over the top characters played by Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker of Sex and the City fame, and Kathy Najimy. They are the Sanderson witch sisters. And these are not like nice, bewitched styled witches. These are very bad, awful people. They murder people, they kill children. I mean, these are bad witches. But you still really like them because these three have such incredible chemistry. They build these amazing characters that I think with anyone else playing them, it just wouldn't work. And I would never have guessed that these three would work so well together, knowing their different careers. Like, Bette Midler's been in some fantastically well done films. She's a really solid actress, but I'd never seen her do this kind of campy, over the top comic acting before, and it's just absolutely perfect. Sarah Jessica Parker as well. Like, she's just so much Carrie Bradshaw in my head that, like, I would never have guessed that she would be able to play the particular character that she does here, but it works. Um, and they're just absolute magic, and I think they are the ones that make this movie work so well. Um, so the Sanderson witches in the 1660s end up essentially killing a young girl, and once they have reaped the benefits of this murder, the town is able to capture them, burn them at the stake. But before that all happens, the witches essentially throw out this curse that someday they'll be able to be resurrected on Halloween. Of course, it has to be Halloween to make this whole storyline work. And they manage to be successful in this endeavor before they are executed. Now, over the course of the years, there's essentially this not immortal but undying creature that watches over their little cottage, making sure no one ever comes to accidentally resurrect them. Unfortunately, present day, or at least present day 1990s, a young boy manages to do that, and it just explodes into this havoc throughout the town. The witches are resurrected. They go on a ridiculous crime spree, and it's just movie magic. I have so much fun every time I watch this. Um, it is a family movie. I know from what I described, it probably does not sound that way, but it really, really is. I had so much fun with this as a kid, like so much fun. And I think anytime friends who are my age have shown their kids, they continue to have that same sense of fun, regardless of how much time has passed. Because again, almost 30 years. Um, and it just has this cast that really, really works well together. Besides the Sanderson sisters, you have all of the young kids who are in this new present day uh, cadre of friends who, are trying to escape the actions of these resurrected witches. You have a young man and his little sister, who are, desperately trying to stay alive. You have the girl that he has a crush on. You have the guardian of the witch's cottage, a cat named Binks, and that's where, of course, the cat comes in. And he is a thoroughly pivotal character. He is really kind of the center of the story, and he can speak. I don't want to talk about who this particular cat is, because I do think that that's part of like the fun of the story and discovering things. But he's actually played by a really well, he's not that recognizable, but the name is Binks is played by a gentleman now who is in NCIS. Obviously back then he wasn't, again, 30 years ago. But it's just really interesting to go back through the cast and see who all of these actors are, because a lot of them are pretty active within the entertainment community even today. So yeah, I love Hocus Pocus. It also has one really fantastic musical number, with the song "I Put a Spell on You." It is so good. I'm just telling you, you have to watch it. If you've never seen it, you absolutely need to. If you haven't seen it in a long time, please revisit it. It will be so much fun. It's such a good time. Don't be afraid to introduce it to your kids. It still maintains like all of the fun that you recall having when you were a kid. It's just the best Halloween movie. And you can watch it any time of year, but we're also getting towards the end of summer, and when is it too early to start celebrating Halloween? But yeah, Hocus Pocus, my big push for this week. So good and so much fun. Okay, so after all the really like weird, quirky, fun stories that we talked about via my film recommendations, we're moving on to my one novel recommendation for the week, and that is The Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa. Now, I had not actually heard of this book before I started collecting titles for this week, but I wish I'd had the chance to read this when it first came out. It is an absolutely incredible story. It is quiet, it is simple, it will make you laugh in places, it will probably make you cry in places too. It's just a wonderfully written novel. It was actually adapted into a film in 2018 as well, and I did watch the movie too, and it is a very good adaptation, I will say, but there's just something so piercing about the prose. It really makes you think about your own life, the things that you would do, how you interact with the people that you love, how you interact with the pets that you love. And it just is a really phenomenal book. Even now I'm very affected even just thinking about it, because it was that good. I'm just saying right now, it was just that good. You have this story of the cat Nana. Now, she is on this strange road trip with her owner, but she doesn't really know why. Her owner's name is Satoru, and one day he just packed her up in her little cat carrier, and they started road tripping across Japan to all of these different people that have been an important part of his life. And with each of these stops, Nana is introduced to both the people and the people's pets if they have them. And it's very charming. I mean, it's very sweet in a lot of ways, but there's also this sort of overhanging feeling of dread is kind of a strong word, but expectation. There's a reason for all of this. And I think you catch on pretty quickly as to what's going on, but at the same time, you're hoping you're wrong. And I actually really respect the fact that Arakawa was able to get that to come across so intensely. I mean, the more I read, the more I both wanted to read the next page and was kind of dreading it at the same time. And at no point did I think about stopping reading. That's the other thing. Like sometimes you get that feeling of dread and you're just like, I'm done. But at no point did I ever get that to that place. It was like, oh, I want to read more of this book, and I want more of Nana. I want more of Satoru. I want more of these new places and these new people. Because when he's writing in Nana's voice, because she's essentially like an anthropomorphic cat, or we're reading through her mind. We're seeing everything through her mind. Things are so like charmingly new or charmingly irritating. That's the other part. Her personality is so full in this book. The prose makes it such a big character on its own. And the way she views the world is so funny and odd and just marvelous. But yeah, each person she meets, each animal that she meets, it's a whole new thing for her and for you as the reader, and you experience all that with her. And again, she knows that there's a reason why she's going on this trip, but she can't figure it out. And it's just so good. And I loved every page that we went through. And of all of my recommendations this week, I really want to urge people to check this one out because, again, this is so off the beaten path. I'd never heard of this title. The Traveling Cat Chronicles, even though it had been adapted into a Japanese film. So it's not something that came up at the local cinema. This one was not a title that came up in any local book clubs either. So, it was completely unknown to me, and uncovering the story as I went was really, really exciting for me. So if you're looking for something that has a lot of layers to it, if you want a story that's incredibly immersive, because this one absolutely is, if you want something that is hopeful, that is beautiful even in its more tragic moments, make sure you check out the Traveling Cat Chronicles by Hiro Arakawa. You won't regret it. It is absolutely phenomenal. Now, that is the last of my recommendations for our 5th week of Tales and Tales. If you have any cat movies that you want to recommend, because again, there are so many amazing ones, please comment below, recommend them. I'm always up for finding a new recommendation. And I will be back next week with our last week of Tales and Tales Rex. If there's something in particular you would like to see covered, make sure that you comment below with that as well. Again, all of the recommendations are available through CleveNet with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and close out the video. Thank you so much for watching as always, and I will see you next time. Bye!